Good day. My name is Alexander S. Olaso Jr. and my partner, Rafael Ronda, will be reciting the El Consejo de los Dioses, in English, The Council of the Gods, by Jose Protasio Rizal. Reunion of the Gods on Mount Olympus. Jupiter is seated on a throne of gold and precious stones, bearing in his hands a scepter of cypress. At his feet is the eagle, whose metallic plumage shimmers with various colors. Thunderbolts, his terrible arms, lie on the floor. At his right is his wife, the jealous Juno, with a fulgent diadem and the peacock of vanity. At his left is the wise Pallas, his daughters and advisers, adorned with her helmet and awesome shield, crowned with green olive and gracefully bearing her heavy spear. Forming a prominent contrast is Saturn, sitting on his heels and staring at the beautiful group. In gracious mess reclines the lovely Venus on a bed of roses, crowned with fragrant myrtle, caressing Cupid. Divine Apollo suavely strikes his lyre of gold, and mother of pearl, dallying with the 8 Muses, daughters of Jupiter, and Mnemosyne, goddess of memory, who are Calliope, muse of heroic poetry, Melpomene, muse of tragedy, Thalia, muse of comedy, Polyhymnia, muse of rhetoric errato, muse of lyric poetry, Euterpe, muse of song and music, Urania, muse of astronomy, and Clio, muse of history. Completing that select circle are Bellona, Alcides, and Momus. Behind Jupiter and Juno are Hebe and Ganymede. On the right side of Jupiter sits Justice, on a throne, her attributes in her hands. Enter the 9th Muse, Thersiphore, the muse of dance, followed by nymphs, naiads, and undines, whose scattering flowers dance to the lyre of Apollo and Erato, and the flute of Euterpe. After the dance, they group themselves on either side of the stage. Enter Mercury. Mercury, I have obeyed your orders, sovereign father. Neptune and his court cannot come. They fear to lose commands of the seas because of the boldness of men. Vulcan is still at work on the thunderbolts you ordered him to make, with which to arm Olympus, and is finishing them right now. As for Pluto, Jupiter, enough! I don't need them either. Hebe, Ganymede, serve the nectar so the immortals may drink. Enter Bacchus on foot and Silenus, riding on an ass, singing. He who wished to live and to make diversions, let him abandon Minerva and tend my vines. Minerva. Silence! Don't you see that the mighty Jupiter is about to speak? Silenus. So what? Is the conqueror of the Titans annoyed? The gods are drinking nectar, so anyone can express merriment as he pleases. But I see that my disciples have offended you, and you use this as an excuse. Momus. Defend him, Silenus, so that they won't say your followers have so much bad manners. Minerva, about to speak, is silenced by gesture of Jupiter, but expresses her disdain with a smile that alerts the delicate serenity of her shapely lips. Meanwhile, the gods have finished their nectar and have begun to chat among themselves. Jupiter, there was a time, great gods, when the proud sons of earth attempted to climb Olympus by piling mountains upon mountain, so they could wrest away my power, and there is no doubt at all that they would have succeeded if your arms and my terrible thunderbolt had not hurled them down to Tartarus. Burying the others in the bowels of fairy Etna, this happy event do I wish to celebrate with all the pomp of the immortals. Now that the earth, following its immortal course, has returned at every same point in its orbit that it occupied them. Thus, I, the king of the gods, desire to begin this feast with a literary contest. I have here a magnificent war trumpet, a lyre, and a crown of laurel, all exquisitely made. The trumpet is a metal known only to Vulcan, more precious than gold and silver. The lyre, like that of Apollo, is of gold and mother of pearl, fashioned also by Vulcan. But its strings, wrought by the Muses, have no equal, and the crown woven by the graces of the finest laurels growing in my immortal gardens, shines more brightly, brilliantly than all the crowns of the kings on earth. These three prizes are all of equal value, and who has most ably cultivated the letters and the virtues shall be the owner of these magnificent jewels. Show me, therefore, the mortal whom you deem worthy to receive them. Juno, allow me, Jupiter, to speak first. Since I am your wife, and the mother of the most powerful gods, no one better than me can present to you so as perfect mortal as the divine Homer, who indeed would dare dispute his supremacy, for no work can compete with his Iliad, so brave and bold, and with his Odyssey, so reflected and prudent, who like him has sung your grandeur, and that of the other gods so magnificently, as if he had surprised us right here on Olympus and been present at our gatherings. Who has done more than him to keep the odorous incense of Arabia burning abundantly before our images, as well as the fat sacrificial offerings, whose delectable smoke, rising in capricious spirals, please us enough to palliate our anger? Who, like him, has recounted the most sublime battles in more splendid verses? He sang of divinity, of knowledge, of virtue, of bravery, of heroism, and disaster. Using all the notes of his lyre, it is he who deserves the prize, for I believe, as all Olympus believes, that nobody else has made himself so worthy of our esteem. Venus, excuse me, sister, wife of great Jove, if I do not share your estimable option, and you, Jupiter, visible only to the immortals, be lenient to my pleas. I pray you not to allow that he who sang of my son Aeneas should be vanquished by Homer. Remember the lyre of Virgil, which sang of our glories and made sweet even the laments of tragic love. His sweet, most, and melancholy verses stir the soul. He phrased piety in the person of the son of Achenses. His battles are no less glorious, those fought at the foot of the Trojan walls. Aeneas is greater and more virtuous than the irritable Achilles. In short, to mind, Virgil is far superior to the poet of Chios. It is not true that he fulfills all the requirements laid down by your holy mind. Having spoken, she returns to recline gracefully in her couch, like the gracious Undine, who cuddling on the foam of the waves, forms the most precious jewel of the lovely poetical lake. Juno. What and why is the Roman poet to be preferred to the Greek? How can Virgil, a mere imitator, be greater than Homer? Since when has the copy been better than the original? Ah, beautiful Venus, I see you are mistaken, and I am not surprised. For when the subject is not love, it's over your head. Besides, the heart and the passions never knew how to reason. Abandon the argument, I beg you, in the name of your innumerable lovers. Venus. O most fair Junos, as jealous as you are vengeful, in spite of your excellent memory, which ever recalls the golden apple so unjustly denied for your famous and never quite fully regarded charms, I see with disgust that you have forgotten the gross insults your favorite Homer hurled against us. However, if you yourself find him reasonable and truthful, that's fine, and I felicitate you for it. But as for me, let the gods of Olympus say, Momus. Yes, let them say that you praised Virgil, because it is said he behaved well with you. And with that Juno defends Homer, because he is the poet of vengeance, and that both of you are really merely trading caresses and compliments. But you, Jupiter, why do you not intervene in this debate? There you sit like a stunned fool, listening to the trilogies at the Olympian feasts. Juno. Husband, why do you allow this deformed and ugly monster to insult us? Kick him out of Olympus, for his breath stinks. Besides, Momus. Glory to Juno, who never insults, for she merely called me ugly and deformed. Juno. Shut up, god of mockery, by the Stygian lake. But enough of this, and let Minerva speak, whose opinion has always been mine since time immemorial. Momus. Yes, another one like you, famous meddlers, who are always found where they should not be. Minerva. I beg you to hear me, mighty son of Saturn, who shakes Olympus with your terrible frown, and you, wise and venerated gods, who direct and govern mankind. Please do not take my words wrong. Ever submitted to the will of the thunder hurler. If by chance my arguments lack weight in your eyes, then refute them and weight them on the scales of justice. There is an ancient Hesperia beyond the Pyrenees, a man whose fame has crossed with the swiftness of a lightning flash the space that separates the world of mortals from Olympus. Ignored and unknown, he became the toy of envy and vile passions. Overwhelmed by disaster, the sad fate of great spirits, it seemed indeed that the world had extracted the Tartars, all its sufferings and torments, and had heaped them on this unhappy person. But in spite of so many sufferings and injustices, he has not cared to return blow for blow, but, being too good and too great to be vengeful, he has rather sought to correct and educate his fellow men by creating an immortal work of his Don Quixote. I speak then of Cervantes, of this son of Spain who is to be her pride, but is now perishing in the most dreadful misery. The Don Quixote, or the Quixote, his great labor, is a whip that punishes and corrects, drawing not blood but laughter. It is a nectar that contains the virtues of a bitter medicine. It is a caressing hand that energetically disciplines human passions. If you ask me what obstacles he overcame, please listen to me for a moment and you shall know. The world found itself invaded by a kind of madness, dismal and frenzied, spread by the idiotic pens of feverish imaginations. Bad taste prevailed and time was wasted in a reading of malicious books. Then there appeared this brilliant light to dispel the darkness of the intelligence, and as birds flee at the sight of the hunter or at the whistling of an arrow, so absurd beliefs sinking into the night of oblivion. And while it is true that the singer of Ilion in these sonorous verses was the first to open the temple of the Muses and to celebrate the heroism of mortals and the wisdom of the immortals. While it is true that the swan of Matua exalted the pioneers of him who rescued the gods from the conflagration of his native land, and who renounced the delights of Venus to obey your will. You, Jupiter, greatest of all gods, and his lyre, his melancholy music transporting the minds of other realms. It is also no less certain that neither Homer nor Virgil reformed the manners of their ages, as did Cervantes. At his appearance, truth once more occupied her throne, announcing the new era of the world, and then corrupted. If you ask me about these beauties, though I know them well, I propose that you ask Apollo, supreme judge on the matter, if the author of Quixote has burnt incense on his immortal altars.
Apollo, receive, O my father, these arguments of mine with the same pleasure that you listen, on still nights, to the complaints of Philomela, the 9 sisters, and I have read in the gardens of Parnassus this book of which the wise Minerva spoke. Its merry style and pleasant rhythm sound in my ears like a sonorous fountain springing at the mouth of Umbrian cave. I beg you not to think me partisan because Cervantes dedicated to me many of his beautiful pages. If even in the extreme poverty that breeds the hunger, misery, and voice that afflict the helpless, a humble son of mine has nevertheless been able to lift up to me his songs and to harmonize his accents, offering me a tribute more gorgeous and precious than my glittering chariot or my indomitable horses. If in a stinking dungeon, unhappy prison of a soul that yearns to fly, his well-trained pen was able to pour forth torrents of dazzling poetry, far sweeter and richer than the waters of the golden Pactolus. Why, then, should we deny his superiority and not give him the victory as the greatest genius the universe has ever seen? His Quixote is the favorite book of the Muses, and while with its humor it consoles the depressed and the melancholy and enlightens the ignorant, the ignorant, it is at the same time a history. The most faithful history of Spanish customs. I am, therefore, of the same opinion as the wise Pallas, and my gods who do not share that opinion, forgive me. Juno, if the greatest merit of Cervantes consists in having endured so many misfortunes, and since in other respects he surpasses no one, if ended he is not surpassed, then I can also say that Homer, blind and miserable, once subsisted on public charity, which Cervantes never did, wandering through the towns and sites with his lyre as his only friend, and living in the most complete misery. This do you remember, well, ungrateful Apollo? Venus, so what? And Virgil, has he not also been poor? Did he not live for a long time on a single loaf of bread, a gift of Caesar? The melancholy that breathes from his works, does it not tell enough of how much his sensitive and delicate heart must have suffered? Could he have suffered less than the brilliant Homer or the gay Cervantes? Minerva, all that is true, no doubt, but you must not forget that Cervantes was wounded, overpowered, and taken captive on the inhospitable soil of Africa, where the drain to the dregs, the chalice of bitterness, living under the constant threat of death. Jupiter gestures that he agrees with Minerva. Mars, rising and speaking with a voice of thunder and wrath. No, by my spear, no, never. While a drop of immortal blood warms my veins, Cervantes shall not win. How can I permit a book to rise victorious that hurls my glory to the ground and makes mock my fist? Jupiter, I helped you one time, so listen to my reason. Juno very angry. Listen, O Jupiter, to judge the reason of the valiant Mars, as sensible as he is courageous. Light and truth spring from his words. How ended can we permit this man whose glory time has respected, and let Saturn speak out, to see himself displaced by one armed upstart, the scorn of society? Mars, and if you, father of gods and men, doubt the force of many arguments, inquire of these others if there be any among them who would sustain his reason with his arm. He strides arrogantly to the center, defying with a look and brandishing his sword. Minerva are stepping forward with a proud expression and flashing eyes, but speaking in a serene voice. Foolish Mars, who has forgotten the Trojan field where you were wounded by a mere mortal? If your reasons are backed by your sword, mine fear no combat, with them on your ground. But so I may not be called reckless, I wish to show you how wrong you are. Cervantes followed your banners and served you heroically on the waters of Lepanto, where the would have lost his life, a destiny not meant him for greater end. If he abandoned the sword to take up the pen, it was by the will of the immortals and not to disparage you as you may have imagined in your wild delirium. Speaking more gently, do not then be ungrateful. Yours generous heart is inaccessible to rancor and odious passions. Cervantes ridiculed knight errantry because it was no longer proper to this time. So besides those are not the combats that do you honor, but battles in the open field, as you will know. These are my arguments, and if they don't convince you, I accept your challenge. Having spoken, Minerva, like a light and loaded cloud, approaching another over the center of the ocean when the sky darkens, slowly marches forward, clasping her formidable shield and lowering her spear. A terrible angel of destruction, of tranquil but terrifying look, the sound of her voice striking fur. Bellona places herself beside Mars, ready to help him. On seeing this, Apollo drops his lyre and seizes his bow, draws an arrow from his golden quiver, and placing himself beside Minerva, pulls his bow, ready to shoot. Olympus, on the verge of collapse, shakes. The light of the day darkens, and the good tremble. Jupiter, shouting in rage and wielding a thunderbolt, go back to your seats, Minerva. Apollo, and you, Mars and Bellona, do not provoke celestial fury like cruel wild beasts in an iron cage, obeying the voice of their bold master. Those four gods return to their respective seats, scared by the threat of the son of Cybele, who on saying their obedience, speaks more gently. I shall put an end this dispute. Justice shall weigh the books with strict impartiality, and what she decrees shall be followed in the word, while you shall accept her immutable judgment. Justice descends from her throne and goes to the center, bearing impartial scales, on which Mercury places the Aeneid and the Cushion. After oscillating for a long time, the needle finally points to the middle, indicating that the books have equal weights. Venus is shocked, but keeps silent. Mercury removes the Aeneid and replaces it with a Iliad. A smile appears on the lips of Juno. With a smile, speedily vanish when she sees the two skills bearing the Cushion and the Iliad racing and falling. Suspense grips everyone. No one speaks, no one breathes. A zipper flies overhead and lands on the branch of a tree to wait the verdict of destiny. At last, the scales rest equal and remain still. Jupiter, in a solemn voice, gods and goddesses, justice believes them equal. Bow your heads, then, and let us give the trumpet to Homer, the lyre to Virgil, and the laurel crown to Cervantes, while fame shall publish in the word the verdict of destiny, and Apollo shall intone a hymn to the new star that from now shall shine in the sky of glory and occupy a seat in the temple of immortality. Apollo, playing his lyre and was sound, Olympus is illuminated and intoning the hymn of glory that resounds all over the Colosseum. Hail to the day greatest of men, favorite son of muses, core of the intense light that shall illuminate the universe. Hail, praise to your name, splendid luminary, around who, in the days to come, shall revolve 1,000 intellectuals, admirers of your glory. Hail, masterpiece of the land of the Almighty, pride of Spain, most beautiful of the flowers that crown my brows. I salute you. You shall eclipse the glories of antiquity. Your name written in letters of gold in the temple of immortality shall be the despair of the other geniuses. Mighty giant, you shall be invincible, rising like a superb monument in the midst of your century. You shall draw all eyes. Your powerful arm consumes dry straw. Go, inspired muses, gather fragrant myrtle, beeches, laurel, and red roses, and wave immortal crowns for Cervantes, Pan and Selenus, and dew founts, and merry satyrs dance on the carpet of the dark forest. While the Nereids and the Naiads, the noisy Andins, and the playful nymphs, scattering 1,000 fragrant flowers, embellish with their songs the solitude of the seas, the lakes, the waterfalls, the rivers, the agitate the clear surface of the fountains and their divers, the muses, nymphs, naiads, etc. begins to dance, as well as Bacchus, Momus, Silenus, and Ganymede. Terpsichore being the lead dancer. Apollo and Erato played the lyre, Euterpe the flute, Cleo the trumpet, and Calliope the bogle. Meanwhile, the gods and the goddesses arranged themselves on either side of the stage, which was being cleared of their thrones. Martial is played, and the second curtain opens, revealing an illuminated bust of Cervantes being crowned by one of the mortals. And that's all.